You know, it's not every day you get to interview the Civic Poet of Seattle. My next guest holds that title. She's also the host and producer of the KUOW podcast 10,000 Things, and her 12th book just hit the shelves. It's a book of poetry, I should say, called No Neutral. And I want to welcome to New Day, Shin Yu Pai. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, I just want to ask you, what is involved with being the Civic Poet of Seattle? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the role is kind of like an ambassador for poetry. So there have been 3 previous civic poets before me, and many of them have offered like writing workshops to the community, curated collections of poetry from the community, or also platformed poets in various ways. So for myself, I've put poets on KUOW doing broadcast segments and curating poetry for the website, and I'm working on a couple of other kind of big community-based projects, but it's being an ambassador for poetry.
Which is so important, because I think a lot of folks don't really understand the importance of poetry. I mean, and I'll ask you that, but I feel for me poetry is always getting to the heart, the emotional bit of something very purely, right?
Well, I think it has this capacity to humanize experiences and to make them universal and to help people feel connected to one another.
Yeah. And in No Neutral, your book of poems includes many Seattle references. Tell me about some of the local people and places that you were inspired by when you wrote this.
Yeah, so some of the places that inspired the poems, I write about the cherry trees, the Yoshino trees at the UW in the Quad, and also the cherry trees that were on Pike Street that were cut down just this past March. And I write about people in my community who have had an impact on me. So the poet and beekeeper Bob Redman, who passed a couple of weeks ago, he was the founder of Common Acre. And I also have a couple poems in the collection that are inspired by Degenerate Art Ensemble, which is a performance art group collective here in Seattle that's led by Crow Nishimura and Joshua Cool.
See, and you've been publishing books since 2003. How has your work changed over the past 20 years, as it has changed with you, I imagine?
Yeah, I feel like in the early days of my writing career, I felt a little bit reluctant or reticent to write very directly or boldly about identity, race, and being Asian American. And I think in those kinds of early poems, I was very inspired by writing about visual arts and artists, which is an ongoing theme in my work. But I think in those days, the poems were very much about beauty in a way. And I think that as my work has evolved over time and become more engaged with social issues, I am interested in many of the same topics and still write about the arts, but I think I'm more interested in the idea of a complicated or a difficult beauty.
I really love how you play with, you know, traditional organization in your writing, and I just want to show this because it really is interesting. I don't know if you can see that. How just the way the words are put on a page can change the way it feels. What do you hope the reader gets from something like this, a movement, and slows them down in a reading in such a way?
Yeah, I think the way that I approach kind of placing words on a page, I'm thinking a lot about the pacing of a poem and how a person may encounter it on the page so that there's spaciousness around images or ideas so that they can kind of take them in a different way. And I think that kind of visual component of entering poetry and really letting language expand and explode in different ways is really important.
What civic projects are you working on now?
So recently I announced on social media an open call to Seattle poets to send me poems about place, Seattle and the idea of sustainability here. So imagining a Seattle where all communities are thriving, whether that's you know, our human communities or our non-human species. Like, I hope that people will send me poems about the western cedar tree, Luma in Wedgwood, that was saved, and, you know, about non-human species like, you know, salmon or other kinds of animals, and just, you know, kind of visions and ideas about what it means to be a sustainable city, a sustainable Seattle.
You're inspiring me. I love this. Before I let you go, I want to talk to you about your book event on Thursday. Tell me about that.
Yes, so Elliott Bay Books in Capitol Hill is hosting a book launch event for me at 7 p.m. on Thursday for No Neutral, and so I'll read from a couple of previous books to kind of help ground how my work has changed over these past 20 years, but I'll also be giving out this hand-printed broadside that was made by Edition Studio in Georgetown.
Oh, wow.
So Sarah Maker, who is the proprietor and teacher at that studio, she and I worked together. She designed this broadside. That's a poem about my son that's featured in No Neutral, and we worked together. I hand marbled some of the paper that appears in this broadside.
So beautiful.
So I just wanted to offer that to you and to let you know that I'll be giving away free copies of that broadside as a gift to people who come to the reading on Thursday.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing it. Your talent, not just with us today, but with all of Seattle. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, Shin Yu Pai has a book event this Thursday, September 28th at the Elliott Bay Book Company. Go check it out.